Hi there, we're back with Syllabication for this week, and I hope you feel well rested after your Thanksgiving break and we're ready to syllabicate. So today, before we get started, I want to go ahead and first share with you our syllabication poster and what we've learned so far to refresh our memory. So these are the syllabication steps. So looking at the screen, our first step that we learned was that we have to find and label the vowels. An example right here shows that with this word. The first thing we did was find and label the vowels. The next thing that we've learned, that we've mastered, is draw a bridge to connect the vowels. Next, we draw the bridge to connect the vowels. Next, we label the consonants on the bridge. So we label the consonants between the two V's, between the bridge. And then next, today, we've talked about dividing the pattern VCCV. We've done a little bit with VCCCV patterns. However, we're going to work on that more today. So that's going to be your new mini lesson, your I can. Here shows an example of where we would divide our VCCV pattern. It's my favorite pattern, so it's right down the middle. And then here is a word where it has 3 C's in the middle. And I'm going to start off today with syllabicating this word. And then I'm going to show you a couple different words. And we're going to run into either VCCV and or VCCCV patterns. And we're going to have to figure out what to do. As you can see with this word here, they did something with these 2 letters. And something we call a scooping group. So we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you so you can see me. So the first word that we're going to look at today, which was our example, is what you see here. Remember, we never want to say the word out loud because that destroys our practice. So the first thing that we are going to do, we are going to find and label the vowels. That's the first step. So my first vowel is O, and my second vowel is E. If we look back to our syllabication steps, the next step is to go ahead and draw the bridge. And then we're supposed to label the consonants between the bridge. Well, I see 1, 2, 3 consonants, which means I have to do something that's called a scooping group because I want to get the VCC pattern into a VCCV pattern. So I'm going to have to ask myself, what makes the most sense to scoop and group? Is it p or whole? What goes together? Well, I know that it's going to be the P and the L. That has to go together to make a scoop and group sound to finish off the word. So I'm going to go ahead and write C here and scoop and group this to have a C. So both of those 2 letters indicate 1 C. Now I'm going to go back to what I know. Now I have a VCCV pattern, and I'm going to go ahead and divide it between my C's, which means right between the M and P. My last step, which we'll need to add to the poster, is to label the syllable type. So I want to read each syllable. Calm. I hear ah. I don't hear it saying O, which means it's a closed syllable. And my next one is plex, plex. I hear not e, which also means it's a closed syllable. And now I can read the word together, complex. And that's the finishing of syllabicating a word that has a VCCCV pattern and how we change it into a VCCV pattern. And then we follow those same steps. Our next words that I'm going to model for you are going to be here on our 2 and 3 syllable sheet. So we might run into VCCV patterns, or as you can see, VCCCV patterns, and 2 and 3 syllable words. So after we're finished with these practice problems here, you're going to go on to Class Kick and you're going to syllabicate another 4 independently, so I can check to make sure you know how to do this. So if you have to rewatch this video, make sure you do. If you have to pause it and go a little slower, make sure you do so you can make mastery. So the first thing you're going to do here is you're going to, hopefully you say at home, find and label the vowels. So I'm going to go ahead and use a smaller marker here and enlarge my screen for you. So I'm going to first label my vowels, which my I is my vowel and my U is my vowel. My second step is to draw the bridge. And then I notice it's not a VCCV pattern right now, but I have to make it be one so that way I know where to divide. So I see 1, 2, 3. Well, is it going to be st, or would it be together? So I am going with what would make the most sense is to scoop and group my T and R and my S, which would also then be a C. Now I have my VCCV pattern, and now I know where to divide between my 2 consonants. And let's see if this makes sense. Let's see if I scoop and grouped the correct 2 letters. So this would be sistrum. Or would it made more sense to go sistrum? Okay, well, I know that I want to keep that T and R together. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and find what my syllable types are. So I have sis, which I hear I, which means it's closed, and trum, which means it's closed because the U is not saying its name. So I have sistrum. Let's go ahead and look at our word here. So what would be my first step? Think about that, friends at home. Hopefully you said find and label the vowels. So I have V, V. Oh, wow. I have no other vowels between this, which means I'm going to have more than one scoop and group. I'm going to go ahead and draw my bridge. And now I have to figure out how I can get to a VCCV pattern because we don't like these. We have to scoop and group. We have to scoop and group to actually become a VCCV pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and look. Well, I know st would go together and scr would go together. So this would be one C, and these 3 letters would be scoop and group together for another C. Some of you probably already saw when you were looking at this word where we would divide it. Now I'm going to go ahead and divide down the center. So here I have post. Do I post or is it past? And then I have script. Well, I didn't end with an open syllable with a vowel, so it has to be past script, which means I hear ah and I hear I, which means they're both closed syllables. Let's go ahead and look at one more word. Let's go ahead and do let's go here so we can look at a different blend that we have happening in this word, that PH. And then I'm going to go ahead and send you to your class kick and you're going to practice this on your own independently and turn it in for me to check. So we have to first find and label our vowels. Well, I have a vowel here and I have a vowel here, my A and U. Remember at home, we know that our vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. So keep that in mind. And our consonants are every other letter in the alphabet that aren't the vowels. Well, this one looks pretty easy for me. I have 2 C's. because I have a G and an N. So it's already a VCCV pattern. So I'm going to make my bridge, label my consonants, and I get to go ahead and divide here. So here I have to figure out, what does that PH sound mean? I don't say spag, spahag, it's sfag. Okay, so that PH sound makes a sound. Ag. I hear a, which means it's not an open syllable, which means it's closed because it's not saying its name. And then I have num. That's a closed syllable because it's not saying you. So I have sphagnum, sphagnum. Due to time, if you would like to try this one at home, you can go ahead and write it on paper. However, I am going to stop the video now so you can log on to Class Kick and make sure that you're following these steps properly. Remember, there are VCCCV patterns, or in like when you saw in here, all these extra letters between the V's. You have to figure out what you're going to scoop and group together to make a VCCV pattern. Same that we did here. We had 3 letters. Well, we had to scoop and group 2 letters together to make a VCCV pattern. So I should never see a VCCCV pattern on your sheet. We always turn a VCCCV pattern into a VCCV pattern with the scoop and group. And sometimes we have to scoop and group more than 2 letters together, as you saw in our second example. This one worked out really nicely because we didn't have to do any scoop and group. It was already a VCCV pattern. Okay, go ahead and log on to your Class Kick assignment and go ahead and syllabicate your 4 words, and I will check to make sure you're doing this correctly. Bye for now.